A discovery call is the linchpin of any good sales process. It's the first window into your organization for this potential client. It's going to set the tone for all future engagements. And it's also going to give you the all-important information you need to take this from a lead to a deal. In this video, I'm going to show you the perfect framework for a discovery call, how you can capture all that information without being too salesy so that you can progress people to the next stage of the pipeline. Discovery call. So this is one of my favorite parts of the sales process. I'm that much of a sales geek. I have a favorite part of a sales process, but they're really, really important. So at this stage, you've gone through a lot of effort by now. You've generated your ICP, worked out who you're selling the thing to. You've done a lot of work on your offer. You've spent a lot of money and a lot of time on lead generation. You've finally got someone to come and have a discovery call with you. Now, discovery calls, I like to make mine 30 minutes, 45 minutes max. Never really an hour. It's too much of an investment. Now, the sort of things I'm used to selling have a six-figure price point normally, so that gives you an idea of the sort of investment and things like that. But here, this is not a pitch. This is an introduction. This is the slow dance at the start. This is, do we like each other? Are we going to get on? There's a bit in between how you've generated the lead and booking the discovery call. So however you generated the lead, you would have either spoken to the person or it would have been on some form of text, whether it be email, actual text or whatever. Now, you want to book this discovery call as soon as humanly possible. So if you can book it within the next 15 minutes, do it. If you can book it the next hour, do it. But if it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4 days, that's also fine. However, your no-show to this discovery call is going to increase the more amount of time there is between when the lead was generated and you had that first conversation and doing this call. The interest is probably going to wane a little bit as well. So get these discovery calls booked in as fast as humanly possible to secure the highest drop-off rate. In addition to that, so once you've spoken to the person, the lead, and you're like, they've committed, yeah, I'd like to, yeah, okay, come on then, let's go and let's do a discovery call. You want to do a few things. The first one is you want to obviously book the call using a meeting invite. If you can, what you want to do is obviously send the meeting invite, but you want to also send something of value to them. So a little recap on what you just discussed, the problem that you're going to be discussing on the discovery call, and the sort of how the discovery call is going to go, really. So you want to send that over as soon as possible, get the meeting booked as quick as possible as well. Then what you want to do, if it is in a day or two's time, you're going to want to either give them a call or get your SDR, if you're that big, to give them a call just to make sure they're still on for the time. And you also want to then potentially send a text message as well. Now, I'd probably only do one of those two things to get them to confirm the date and the time, because you really, really want to reduce those no-shows because they've got a lot of effort. Also, when you think about it, discovery calls take up time in your diary, and usually you book the best times first because they'll book it for when it's most convenient for them. Another thing that's going to really drive show rates is be available at the most amount of times possible. But what you also want to do is make sure you get as many people turn up to these discovery calls as possible. So dropping that text, making that call just before is going to really, really improve that rate. There's times and places for tools in discovery calls. If you've had a human discussion with someone, personally, I would never then send them the Calendly link afterwards to book their own thing, because you're just adding an extra layer of friction to the sale. You're going to want to figure out with them, if I'm on a call or I'm face-to-face, we'll figure out right now when in your diary is free, and I'll just send you a normal invite. Now, if you're running campaigns, you've got masterclasses, webinars, email campaigns, whatever it might be, then you can always add the Calendly link or tool of your choice to then allow people to book their own calls. Now, it is easier for you with your diary management and things like that if people book their own calls, but it's less human. If it's run from a campaign, there's no problem sending them a link to something like Calendly so that they can book their own meeting. They'll generally book it at a time that's convenient for them as well, but I would never have a conversation with someone and then send them the Calendly link. If you've been chatting to somebody on LinkedIn, email, WhatsApp, whatever it might be, you always want to ask them when is convenient for them, and then you book the meeting and send them the invite. You don't want to add another layer of friction, which means somebody needs to come from that conversation, work out when they're free, go and look at your calendar, click a link, go and look in your calendar, book it. It sounds really simple, but you're just adding another thing for the person to do rather than you consuming that. And at this really, really early stage of the sale, that can happen because they might just get distracted with something else, they'll put it off, whereas you're in a bit more control. If you know the time that they're free, then you can go and book that meeting and send that invite. So once you've done all of that and you've got your discovery call, we really need to think about and structure how these things go. Now, this is one of the most asked for things from my clients, in that they feel like they're okay at lead generation, they can generate the leads and things like that, but they're getting a lot of drop-offs at this discovery call. And don't really know why. And usually it can be a fairly easy fix. Now, sometimes they've just been marketing to the wrong person, the person was never a fit anyway, and they shouldn't have been on the discovery call. That's fairly rare, I would say. The majority of cases, it's because they don't have a structured discovery call, they just have a general conversation. They get embarrassed about asking about pricing, or when somebody asks them about pricing. There's a bunch of different reasons, but it's usually always to do with the structure. So, as I said, my discovery calls are usually 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how much information I've captured from that person in however it is that we already met. But standard, I would never ever do any more than 45 minutes because it's too much of a time investment for someone at this early stage of the sale. So the first thing we're going to go through is the rapport and framing. So people can often turn up to these calls a bit grumpy sometimes. Like maybe they've forgotten why it is they booked it and they're like, I'm actually really busy today. Or when they booked it, it was a nice, calm, quiet day, but you've actually got them in the middle of a really, really busy day. If they're still talking to you, that's a really good thing because it shows that they do have and see the value in you guys talking, even at this really early stage. But you want to be mindful of that. And the last thing you want to do is waste their time because you will kill this deal instantly. So you want to basically have a bit of rapport with the person. I usually ask how they're doing and how their day's going so I can get a bit of a feel for it, but I'm not going to go off and talk about the weather and things like that. I'm going to go straight into, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's really, really nice to meet you. So just to let you know what we'll do on this call, it's only going to be 30 minutes. I'll just run through a few questions around why it is that you took the call with us today, why it is you got in contact, however it is that they come in. Always know how they came in as well, because if you say why you booked the call with us today, and it's actually been booked as part of an outbound campaign, you already look like you don't know what you're doing. You already look like you're confusing your sales and your marketing and things like that. So always know them. So one other point actually, before the discovery call, I'll do a bunch of research on that person. Remember we spoke about ICPs earlier? Well, now I've got that name, I'm going to go and want to research them. I look at LinkedIn, X, a bunch of different places, see what they're into and things like that. Not fully stalking the person, but just gathering as much information as I can. Probably about 15 minutes for each one before a discovery call. So I've just got the frame of sort of who they might be in my mind. It's really a call to listen. So you're just gathering information here. You're going to want to have questions, but if you're doing more than 50% of the talking, more than 40% really, then it's probably not the best way to do it's not the best way to do a discovery call. You're going to need to be listening at this part more than anything else. So once we've established how long the call is going to be, what we're here to do, who each of us are. So I'm the founder. I'm usually talking to the other founder. I would have researched their company, obviously, before this point as well, products and services that they provide and the markets that they're into and things like that. Then we're going to get into it. So the first thing is the situation. So what is their current situation? So for me, when I'm speaking to founders, it's usually that they've got a fairly successful business and they're usually at the limit of what they can do in sales on their own. And they want to grow the revenue, but that either means working weekends or more hours, or they're not normally a natural salesperson. So they've sort of done it through like grit and enjoyment and cut and thrust of sort of getting around people and referrals and being a good egg, but they're not a sort of trained salesperson, as it were. So a lot of the time they've actually tried to take on a salesperson 1, 2, 3 times and it's failed, mostly because they didn't do a bunch of the stuff that we spoke about in previous videos. But that's I need them to explain that to me. I need them to frame their situation. So we want to grow the revenue. It's not happening. They might make up the reasons why. Oh, it's a tough market at the moment. Whatever it might be. But we want to talk about the situation. And in here, you're not just getting ideas around the problem. You're also talking about, like, have they been going 50 years or 1 year? Have they got funding of $0 or 50 million? Like, there's a bunch of other stuff around the situation that you're going to sort of need to know and understand. If they get 5 employees or 50 employees, are they based in the UK? Are they global? All of this sort of stuff is what you're going to want to find out in a good situation. And this bit here, 5 minutes max. You won't need 5 minutes. This bit here is probably 5 to 10 minutes in the situation. And then we're going to get right into it. So what is the problem and what is the impact it's having on their business? And a lot of the times for me, I'll hear, well, I want to sell the thing in 5 years and I know that it's not sustainable and not worth very much if I'm the one doing all the sales, or I want to make the business more resilient, or I want to break into a new market, or many, many different things that it's limiting them. And what they're telling me about is both the problem and the impact. So the problem could be that we're not generating enough sales. Now, enough sales in my market is whatever the founder defines it to be. They can't afford a third car, or just they can't afford to make payroll. Two very, very different impacts. So the impact of not being able to afford a Porsche 911 is very different to not being able to make payroll. So that's going to change their stress on the situation, if you see what I mean. So we really want to spend the majority of the call, up to 15 minutes, talking about the problem and the impact here. And one of the things that I make sure we do in this part is get them to relay the problem to me. So they tell me, I repeat it, they repeat it back. So you're really compounding and making it very clear what the problem and the impact is of their current situation. And then when we talk about the desired outcome, I want out of sales in 2 years. I want out of sales in 6 months, whatever it might be. This now gives me a really good indication of how long we've got. What is the urgency here? If the urgency is high, the price usually goes high with it. If the urgency is quite low, it can be quite a lethargic sale sometimes. So I'm really looking for how strong is this desired outcome. Like, okay, well, I want to be out of sales in 6 months, and I also want to double the revenue. Well, there's two fairly hard things to do at the same time, to remove the key salesperson that's been providing all the sales for the last 2, 3, 4 years and double the revenue at the same time. So we might want to add a dose of reality here sometimes. But you can also then very subtly and quietly weave in some previous case studies of companies that you may have worked with that you can talk to about desired outcomes that you've achieved for them as well in this area, but not too much talking. So the desired outcome here, you want to sort of spend 5 minutes, I would say, on desired outcome, but again, it's mostly them talking. Next bit is the buying process and fit. So from here, you would have had this whole conversation. Oh, another quick thing about tooling. I always have a note taker on my discovery calls. I never want to be taking notes myself, just because it really allows me to get engaged with the conversation. If I know that the sort of AI note taker bot's picking it all up, then it's always good enough for me to use at the end. And then you have it to refer to as well. Some other people I've seen have got some really cool, so it sort of integrates to their CRM and adds it back in there if another salesperson takes it over, or you can actually use some of it to create proposals nowadays and things like that as well. So what you're doing here is you're going through all of this stuff, and once you've got to this point, you should basically know if this has got legs or not. Like, are we a good fit for each other? Are they wildly over-optimistic? Are they just not the right client, not the right fit, someone you've got no experience in dealing with? Do you not like them? Do they not like you? It can be something as simple as that. A lot of people, once they get to a certain level of business, they only want to work with people they like. But it's a massive driving factor. So by here, you've sort of qualified the person in your mind. So you know if you can do really good things for them with your service, or if you basically can't, and it might be a bit of a car crash. So once you've got to that, that's really going to define these next two bits. So the buying process and fit. So if it looks like it's got some legs and it can go somewhere, you just want to be asking questions around, okay, so look, this sounds like a really good fit. It sounds like something we've done for 3 or 4 other people in the past, something we're deeply experienced in, and then you can talk about your credentials a bit here as well, because this is where you're going to start to do more of the talking. So this is where you start to talk about, if you can, make the case studies as specific as possible, so people just like them in your ICP, but also potentially in their same sector, or for the exact same project that you've done before. Depending on how productized and repeatable your service is, will depend on sort of how much you're going to be able to do that. So you're now sort of relaying back to them. This is the point where they're probably going to have to start to have a few questions as well. So make sure you've got your common mitigations common questions and things like that set up. So I always make playbooks for discovery calls with each of my clients where we have a big section at the end, which is the most common questions that you get asked and what the responses are. That can then form really, really important building block for when you're bringing on other salespeople into the business. And all of these recordings as well are amazing training material if you're going from founder-led sales to a salesperson, because they're never going to sell in the same way as you. They're just not. They're not getting paid the same money. They've not got the heart, the desire. If they had, they would have started this company themselves. So you're only probably ever going to get up to 80% as good as you are at selling the thing. But to push it as close to that, you want to document the hell out of sort of things like this and make all those recordings. So if you've answered all their questions correctly, and this looks like and feels like it's going somewhere, then you want to know the buy-in process. So that was the fit part. This is the buy-in process. Can they sign it off internally? What do they need to do? How long is this going to take? Does it need to go out for tender? Is there a procurement route? Is there a framework that they need to do? You don't need to know the ins and outs, absolutely everything. Remember, this is the first discovery call, but you're going to need to know enough to give you a sort of timeline. If it needs to be taken to the board, when is the board? Is it every 3 months? Is it every month? Is it every week? Sort of simple stuff like that you're going to want to pick up. And then next steps. So really, really important. If they're qualified in and you think this has got some next steps, clearly outline what those next steps are. You probably would have heard me talk about this before, but the BAMFAM adage, book a meeting from a meeting, is really, really important here. This is one of the small things that can massively reduce your time to sale. But in the next steps, book the next meeting before this call wraps up. Just get them to go in their diary, tell them when you're free, and book that next meeting. So you book the next meeting and you already agree what the next steps are. So we're going to give you a price by tomorrow. We're going to give you a full-blown proposal by the end of the week. Like whatever it might be, that's what you'll agree as the next steps. But then really, really importantly, get that next meeting booked in. So once you've done this, you've nailed your discovery call. You've got your playbook for discovery calls sorted. What you're going to want to do is follow up with these people. It's fairly rare you send something once and somebody comes straight back to you. Sometimes it happens, but follow-up's a really, really important part that a lot of people get wrong. So that's what I'm going to cover in the next video.